Caution, the enemy is listening, and the all-seeing eye. We're starting with this really chilling statement because it just drops you right into the world of our source material, a world of constant surveillance and intense psychological pressure.
Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're going to be breaking down a raw first-person account from inside a high-security psychiatric facility. It's a place the narrator simply calls Black Site Berlin. This is his story, as he tells it.
So here's how we're going to walk through this. We're going to look at the environment he describes, the specific ways he claims he was tormented, his theory on why this was all happening, and then finally, the battle he waged inside his own mind.
Okay, let's dive right in. First, we have to understand the setting from the narrator's point of view. For him, this wasn't just a facility. It was a covert prison where every single move was being watched and everyday objects were turned into tools of surveillance.
It all seems to start with a soundbar. He orders this pretty expensive piece of audio gear, but it takes more than 6 weeks to show up. To him, that long delay wasn't just a shipping issue. He became convinced it was the perfect window for intelligence services to plant a listening device, a bug that he would then carry with him from room to room.
And from there, he starts connecting the dots. He points to his TV mount being totally taken apart during a room change, something that seemed like way too much work for the staff to do for no reason. But the real clincher for him was an incident where he secretly threw away food he believed was drugged and says he was immediately gassed. The reaction was so fast, he could only come to one conclusion. They had to have a camera on him.
So this feeling of constant surveillance really sets the stage for the next part of his story, which is a systematic campaign of what he describes as physical and chemical torment, all designed to break him.
He's convinced this isn't about just checking a box for the official record. No, he believes this is real, physical torture meant to be felt. And what's more, he thinks it's also designed to rope in the low-level staff to make them accomplices in a much, much bigger game.
He lays out this whole process he believes was in place. A 6-day gap between ordering supplies and getting them, well, in his mind, that's more than enough time for tampering. He describes his coffee as a trap. First, a quick hit of alertness, but then, 30-45 minutes later, boom, overwhelming sedation, which of course just makes him want more coffee the next morning. It's a vicious cycle.
And this comparison here is really at the core of his whole argument. He asks a pretty logical question. If the goal was just to make sure he took his meds, why not do a simple, standard mouth check? He argues that these elaborate, hidden methods must mean the goal was something else entirely, something like psychological warfare.
The gassing, he says, was made even worse by the situation. He describes his heater as being, coincidentally, broken in the middle of winter. So he had a choice: freeze with the window open or keep it shut and be trapped with the gas. For him, it was a daily dose of chemical torture designed to make him feel completely powerless and, well, furious.
So this brings us to the biggest question of all, one the narrator asks constantly: why? What is the point of all this? He believes it's a very carefully planned psychological operation that has some very specific goals. As he sees it, this whole thing is a multi-layered strategy. First, provoke him into an outburst so you have something negative for his file. Second, get him to complain about being poisoned so you can just slap a poisoning fantasy diagnosis on him. Third, create a paper trail against the staff you can use later. But the ultimate goal, the real endgame, he believes, is to condition him psychologically, to fill him with this burning, all-consuming need for revenge. He sees this entire ordeal as a classic divide-and-conquer strategy. He's convinced that the intelligence services need him to be angry, vengeful, and completely unwilling to ever find common ground. It's all about preparing him for some future role where that specific mindset is exactly what they need.
And so, this whole conflict really comes down to one place: the narrator's own mind. That becomes the primary battlefield. It's a struggle between this constant external provocation and his own internal conscious will to resist.
The narrator is brutally honest about the psychological toll this takes. He doesn't pretend it doesn't affect him. In fact, he's pretty sure that the raw human reaction he's having is the entire point of the exercise.
He says it right there, plain as day. The torment is working. It's triggering these extreme, violent, and really disturbing fantasies about getting revenge. And he's sure this isn't just some unfortunate side effect. He believes it's the intended outcome of the entire operation.
Yeah, and the source text it's incredibly graphic about these thoughts. He describes them in painstaking, brutal detail. It really lays bare the psychological depths he's being forced to deal with as a result of this constant assault.
But right here, this is the turning point in his story. He claims his tormentors made one huge mistake. They went too far. The methods became so excessive, so over the top, that the real intention behind it all, to make him angry, became completely obvious to him.
By seeing the trick, he believes he can beat it. It's this profound moment of mental defiance where he makes a conscious choice. If this entire operation is designed to make him angry, he's going to choose the exact opposite. He's going to choose peace.
And this leads to his ultimate claim. He says that even while supposedly sedated, under the influence of gas, he can use pure, rational thought to see the game for what it is and simply decide not to play. He believes he can make their entire psychological operation useless through a sheer act of will.
Which leaves us with the central question of this whole account. In a war fought with chemicals and psychological manipulation, where the goal is to hijack your emotions, could the greatest victory be a quiet, rational refusal to hate your enemy?